Padres are 1-2 to start the season, but this is where I want to start the show today. I talked about it on Saturday. I don't want to pull the whole right but too early thing. And again, it's only one start. But how about Randy Vazquez, man? How about Randy Vazquez? I want to start the show with Randy Vazquez and what we just watched on Saturday night. I think that changes the entire outlook of the Padres season. I'm serious. I know it's one start. I know it's early. I know we're only a couple of games into 162. But if you're watching that game, if you were paying attention, if you understand what this team needs to be successful this year, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Randy Vazquez didn't just pitch well. He didn't just give you innings. He didn't just keep you in the game. He shoved 6 scoreless innings, 2 hits, 8 strikeouts. And most importantly, the guy looked like a completely different pitcher. Let's be honest. Coming into the season, what was the biggest question about this team? Wasn't the lineup, wasn't the bullpen, it was the rotation. It was always the rotation because you're asking a lot from guys like Nick Pivetta. You're counting on Michael King to repeat a career year. You don't know when or what you're going to get from Joe Musgrove coming off of surgery. So what does that mean? It means somebody has to emerge. It means somebody has to take a leap. It means somebody has to go from a back-end guy to we can trust this dude every 5th day. And I said it on Saturday at Far Corner, and I'll say it again right now. Randy Vazquez can be that guy. In fact, I think he can be more than that. I think he pitched himself into being a number 2, and I'm not ruling out even more. Because what you saw on Saturday wasn't random. It wasn't luck. It wasn't he had a good night. That was the result of development, work. That was the result of a guy figuring out who he is as a pitcher. Go back to last year. This is a guy who had one of the lowest strikeout rates in baseball. He didn't miss bats. He pitched to contact. He lived on the edge. And you know what he said? If I'm not going to strike guys out, I'll find another way. And he did. He had a 3.73 ERA. He was grinding. He was competing. He was finding a way. And that matters. That teaches you how to pitch. To quote the late, great Randy Jones, the guy up there fails 70% of the time and he makes it to the Hall of Fame. Let him fail. That tells you something about the makeup that Randy Vazquez has. He understands how to get guys out now. He learned how to pitch without missing bats. He's not one of those, I've always been lucky by, I've always had better stuff and I could strike guys out. Randy had to learn how to pitch. And not only did he learn how to pitch, that guy grew, I mean, his velo has jumped up. It started climbing 93 to 94, 94 to 95, then 96, then 97, then touching 98. Now all of a sudden you've got a completely different pitcher because now hitters can't just sit on contact. Now there's fear. Now there's swing and miss. Now there's upside with this guy. And what did we see Saturday? We saw 8 strikeouts against the legit lineup. Not the Rockies. Not a bottom feeder, a real lineup. A real lineup that dominated the Padres the first couple of days, that got the hits late against the bullpen on Friday night, and a lineup that tagged Nick Pivetta on opening day. But here's what I love the most about Randy Vazquez on Saturday. It wasn't just the velocity. It wasn't just the strikeouts, but it was the conviction. He attacked. He wasn't nibbling. He wasn't dancing around the zone. He trusted his stuff. And when you combine that kind of confidence with the kind of velo that he just has acquired during the offseason, and now you throw in a 5-pitch mix, that's when things start to get scary. And let's talk about that mix. Fastball sitting now mid to upper 90s. Sinker with life. Cutter getting swings and misses. Curveball, changeup. The guy's got options. And when you have options as a pitcher, you can get through a lineup multiple times. That was something that you didn't do with Randy Vazquez last year. But now you can adjust. Now you can go out there and dominate. And here's the part nobody talks about enough. This didn't just happen. This is the result of learning, the result of growth, the result of mentorship, because you got to give credit where credit's due. And I saw this not only in Kevin Acey's article about the game, not only in AJ Cassaville's article of the game, but also in Dennis Lynn's article about the game, about Yu Darvish and the impact he had and he has had on Randy Vazquez. That relationship matters. That's not just a veteran talking to a young guy. That's a master teaching a student. That is routine. It is preparation. It is scouting. It is discipline. It is the stuff you don't see on TV. That's what turns talent into production. I mean, you're talking about a situation when Randy Vazquez last year would either text or call Yu Darvish after every outing and after every bullpen session, and they would discuss what he did well, what he did not do well. That is so huge. That is why it's so important to keep Yu Darvish part of this organization in some capacity for moments like that. And here's the reality. The Padres need this. They need Randy Vazquez to be this guy, because if he is, everything changes. And I mean everything. Now your rotation has depth. Now your bullpen isn't overworked. Now your team has balance. Now you're not asking your offense to score 6, 7, 8 runs every night. And I'll even go further. If Randy Vazquez becomes what we saw Saturday, and he could do it consistently, because again, I admitted at the beginning part of this, it's only one game. But if he can do that, this team is better than what the projections think. And I mean way better. Because everyone's looking at the Padres and saying, yeah, they're good, but the rotation, but the questions, but the uncertainty. Well, what if one of those questions becomes an answer? What if one of those ifs becomes a strength? That's how teams surprise people. That's how seasons change. And I'm telling you right now, based on what we saw, based on the velocity, based on the confidence, based on the development, Randy Vazquez is on the verge of that leap. And you know what I love about this the most? He's 27. This isn't a finished product. This is a guy still figuring it out, still developing, still getting better. So yeah, I know it's one start, but it's also a continuation, because if you go back to late last season, he was already trending in this direction. His velocity was starting to go up. His strikeouts started to go up. His confidence, and the most important thing is confidence, started to go up. So this result on Saturday is not a random result. This is not a result that is surprising, I think, to a lot of people that watch Randy pitch in spring training. This is real. That was a real outing for Randy Vazquez. Sure, he might have a setback later in the season. I'll say that now, before people want to start calling me out anytime Randy Vazquez has a bad outing. He's still not a finished product. He's still learning how to pitch, but he's shown signs of confidence and signs of excitement, I think, for a lot of Padres fans. And if this continues, we're not just talking about a nice story. We're not just talking about a solid starter. We're talking about a potential difference maker for this team, on a team that desperately needs one in the rotation, especially after the start to the year Nick Pivetta had. Hopefully he could bounce back against the Red Sox next weekend. Or actually, no, correction, against the Giants. He'll be pitched against the Giants on Wednesday. But with Nick Pivetta and the outing that he had on opening day, with the uncertainty about Joe Musgrove, with, by the way, everybody's holding their breath for the next 2 days with Walker Buehler and German Marquez, without those guys. And who knows what you're going to get out of Griffin Canning when he comes back. You need somebody to help solidify this rotation. I thought Michael King did great on Friday night. It's a bummer they couldn't get him a win. But Randy Vazquez can pitch himself into being in the top part of this rotation. I'll say it again. Randy Vazquez can pitch himself into being a number 2 in this rotation. And if everything clicks, don't be shocked if we're having a completely different conversation about him by the end of the season. Because what we saw Saturday night, that wasn't just a win. That was a glimpse of what this team can become. All right, let's get into the weekend that was Padres baseball. When we come back, we're going to talk about the biggest takeaways of the 3-game series. Again, you're excited on a Monday because they won on Saturday. They still lost 2 out of 3 to the Detroit Tigers. Nothing is perfect. There's a lot of problems early on this season that obviously need to be addressed. You're taking on a Giants team who you've completely owned in the last couple of years. Need to keep that going, and you need to kick them while they're down. I mean, they just got their ass handed to them for 3 days by the New York Yankees. I mean, they scored 1 run over the entire weekend. You need to kick them while they're down and knock them back 6 games to start the season so you don't have to worry about them later.